Hi, and welcome to this edition of In Focus. Our opportunity to Hi, and welcome to this edition of In Focus. Our opportunity to interview those community leaders and activists within our community who we see, but we may not know. And today we're so happy to have with us one of our I'm going to say it this way, one of our secret stars. Let me call it that way. One of those who is behind the scenes but working hard. It is my distinct pleasure to bring attorney Stephen Hunter, chairman of the Miami-Dade Black Affairs Advisory Board. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. So I call you one of those secret weapons, one of those, how my cousin them from around the corner say, who will punch you to the white meat. You who will punch you in the head and get you. It's kind of that stealth, yet very directed and pointed person who
That there was this place during wintertime that was still warm, while here, uh, told my best friend at the time, listen, I hear they have a law school over at the University of Miami, let's go check it out. I drove down, there was a wonderful woman at the, student enrollment office.
Admissions or
Admissions, right?
Yeah.
And I said, hi, my name's Stephen Hunter Johnson. I go to Coppin State, and I'm interested in attending. Here's my GPA. Here's my LSAT scores. Can I get a scholarship? And you know, at that point, we were on spring break, so no harm, no foul.
Right. Let me try.
Let's ask, see what happens.
Let me shoot my shot.
Correct.
Right.
And she said, listen, Mr. Stephen Hunter Johnson, if you are who you say you are and everything checks out, the answer is yes. Little did I know that at the time when I was asking these questions, enrollment had already, the admissions period had already closed. But I go back up north, and it was funny. I remember getting off the plane, and I'm in shorts, and that cold weather hits you.
Right,
and
right,
I said, all right.
Because you dress for where you're going, not where you've been, right?
Right.
And not in that scenario.
You know, we were on spring break, so on my mind, it's springtime, so these shorts are going to be fine, except it was 42 degrees
Oh my goodness.
getting off that plane. But I spent that, and I guess we got back on a Sunday. I spent that Monday filling out the application, getting all the documents, mailing it off, and the rest is history. By July 29th of 2000, loaded up all of my possessions on a U-Haul and drove on down.
And made it here. So for the young people that are watching in our after-school programs at Charles Drew and at Miami Northwestern that will watch this as just people that they need to know in the community, what would you say to them about shooting your shot and taking risks as it relates to moving forward in life?
You know, I say no harm, no foul. Other people say shoot your shot. Other people say, and I think this sums it up well, bet on yourself.
Bet on yourself. That's the second time that we've heard that.
Right. If you ask when you don't have anything for something, your worst outcome is what you had before you asked.
Right.
Your best outcome is a scholarship at the University of Miami School of Law. Just on the willingness to ask. I think a lot of our young people, and our older people for that matter, don't necessarily appreciate the breadth of options that they actually have. And I think this is true for all of us. Sometimes you get so busy looking at the tree that's in front of you that you forget there's a whole forest out there. My neighbor, we were talking this week, and he's a young man, and he said, listen, I'm still trying to figure it out. I said, well, the first thing you want to do is stop thinking that you already know what your options are and just play around with it. And young people are in a better situation than we were because they have the internet right there.
They have access on their phone. We had to actually go to libraries, look it up, ask questions, where you can just say, hey, Siri.
But if you don't know what question to ask, how do you get the answer? My father used to tell us, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you. And I think that was to kind of motivate people into action, because it's the action that creates, it's the movement that actually creates you traveling to whatever destination you want to go.
Each person has their journey. But you skipped something. Where did you attend undergrad?
Coppin State, well, I graduated, which is the part that matters. Coppin State University in Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay, in Maryland. So I haven't had the privilege of hearing of that. Is it an HBCU?
It is.
It is an HBCU.
It is.
In Maryland. Wonderful. And so we can say HBCU educated.
Correct. In fact, I had an interview yesterday because of the controversy surrounding a recent news article about Florida Memorial. When I told the reporter was that I have a special place in my heart for Florida Memorial because Coppin, like Florida Memorial, is a smaller school. It is in the heart of Baltimore. It services not only on-campus undergrads, it also services people like what I was, which was a working professional who could go to class after work. It had to be after 5. I needed to get all my credits in. But it was flexible enough, and I don't tell this story enough. Once I decided on the University of Miami School of Law, I had to accumulate enough credits to graduate. So I took 18 credits in the fall. I took 6 credits in between fall and spring. I took 21 credits
Wow.
in the spring, and I took 9 credits in the summer, all to, even though I walked in May, like
Right.
everyone else, all to make sure that I had that degree in hand by the time law school started in middle August of 2000. But I was already motivated, right? I
Right.
knew, okay, this is my next course, let me get there. But I say all that to say about Coppin that was a school that had the flexibility, because I did that while working full time.
Right.
That was a school that had the flexibility to accommodate someone who worked from 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. I could get all of those things done on Saturdays in the evenings,
Wonderful.
right? That's what Florida Memorial
And that's really
offers.
what the HBCU experience really gives you.
Correct.
It gives you the wind to recognize that there are others who have accomplished, but also gives you opportunity to be around those who have a certain level of sensitivity. Now, I am a proud Lion. You don't know that, but I am a graduate of Florida Memorial University. That's where I did my undergrad. I did a few years at Miami-Dade on a scholarship, and then went over to Florida Memorial. Because of my working background, I wanted to stay near. I was moving up within county government and things like that. But in addition to that, I wanted to have that HBCU or Black experience.
Correct.
And that was the only place that I could get it in South Florida and still work. And so Florida Memorial, to me, was the best decision I made, because it gave me opportunity, it put me on certain platforms, but it also met my need, as you suggest.
Yeah, look at what you were at the time was, again, a working adult. So
Yes.
that the whole of the experience was offered to you, but it was offered to you in a way that did not disrupt your ability to work. And I'll also add this. Having attended other schools, majority schools and whatnot, I can tell you that Coppin was the first place where the administration and staff were all invested in me graduating.
Yeah.
It's the idea that you being a Black college graduate is something special and something that you must achieve. You have to achieve it not only for your family and your friends, but you have to achieve it for the lady in the food hall who's like, okay, now we want you to get through. It's a top to bottom experience invested in you becoming yet another Black college graduate. And I haven't experienced that anywhere else.
Gotcha. And so while at Compton or at University of Miami, where did we acquire these Kappa Alpha Psi letters?
So, and I am old enough to date back to a time when my fraternity found itself in some trouble for some hazing incidents.
Yeah.
So I was not able to cross the burning sands until literally 2005. So it's been a long time, but I've been out of school for just a little while.
Right.
With the Richmond Perrine Alumni Chapter here in South Florida, is the southernmost chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. I also had the distinct pleasure and honor to serve as its pole mark, which was even made more special because I got to do it during Kappa's centennial year.
Wow.
So to represent my brothers in the chapter during our centennial conclave was probably one of the greatest honors of my life.
So to a high school, our middle school students, what does it mean to be a Kappa man? What does all that mean to them? We had Jawan Strader, who shared in your brotherhood, but would you share, what does that mean to be Greek and be a part of that?
So in and of itself, being a Kappa man means to be a man of achievement, and that's really important. But on a broader level, to participate in any Greek organization, be it a fraternity or a sorority, as a Black person in America means contributing to those organizations that have contributed so much to Black life in America for so long.
Quality of life.
I think people fail to realize, and I'll call out other organizations to make this point, fail to realize that not only Kappa, but the Sigmas have Kwame Nkrumah as a member. And why is that important? because at the time when black people in America were catching hell, and I don't even know if I can say that, these black organizations were building world leaders.
Yes.
And it's that concept that we all have to remember. Any organization that is there to encourage your growth and surrounds you with others who are on your path
Yes.
is a good organization.
And if it inspires you to move forward.
Correct.
And we become often a reflection of what we are exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to be exposed and around when sometimes the male presence isn't always as visible as we would like, to have moments like a Greek organization to validate some things, I would imagine were just tremendously valuable. But talking about that, let's talk about the 100 Black Men of South Florida. That was a great segue into that. Tell me about that organization, as you were the past president.
I am indeed. 100 Black Men of South Florida is the South Florida chapter of the 100 Black Men of America, which is probably one of the preeminent black mentoring organizations in the United States. We have chapters worldwide at this point. But the 100 Black Men of South Florida is extra special because not only do we have some notable luminaries as founding members, but we service not only all of Miami-Dade County, but we service all the way into Southern Broward County.
Okay.
And we have young men who come literally from an area that's the size of Rhode Island, and we mentor them. And we've been doing that through the Harold Ginyard Leadership Academy now for over 30 years.
So how do you recruit young men to be a part of that mentorship program if there's someone watching that would like to be a part of that?
So the 100 Black Men of South Florida have a Facebook page, 100 Black Men SF, and at Twitter and Instagram, and we have our website, which is www.100blackmensf.org.
Okay.
So you can apply for enrolling your child, your young man, into the Leadership Academy. The Leadership Academy begins enrollment at age about 12.
Okay.
And we stay with them from the time they're 12 all the way through their graduation of high school. Then beyond that, if they choose to go to college, the 100 Black Men of South Florida also provide a scholarship for those young leaders. But to show and highlight the success of the program, Mayor Matthew Pygott is a graduate
Is that right?
of
Yes.
of the Leadership Academy, and then he came back, and this is sort of the how giving goes full circle. He came back and he, for a while, was the chair of the Leadership Academy committee within the 100. So, and I think this is true of all of our black organizations. We have to grow such that we can hand the reins off to our next generation and then allow them to grow and do the same, right? If you're watering the seeds now, it has to grow into something that hopefully will come around and water the next generation of seeds.
So this is going to take me to the Black Advisory Board, but I have to tell you a funny story. So as a single woman, I hear of the 100 Black Men of South Florida, and they were hosting an event. I mentioned in a group, it was a Sunday as a matter of fact, and I was in a group of people. I said, honey, I'm going to the 100 Black Men event to see what the 100 Black men got to offer, right? Just having a light moment. I did not know that there was a gentleman in the crowd who had a liking for me. So I go to the 100 Black men thinking I'm gonna find me one of the 100 Black men. And this Negro shows up. I was livid.
I can imagine. It's funny.
I was like, what are you doing?
Well, at least you knew somebody. But no. If you go to one of our organizational events, I know you'll know a bunch of people there.
Absolutely. I'm just using that as
That's funny.
as a moment of levity. As many Black women you have to know have laughed and had moments like this and laughing. But it is something to know that you have gathered men together who are about, and most of which are professional and married and all that. That speaks volume to the quality of the program. But I was so mad. Here I am thinking I'm going to be about my own business and somebody else was on their business.
Well, I will say this. So we've hosted particularly successful Christmas parties, and we've hosted galas. But the one thing that I'll note is that, and I think this is part of the makeup of the 100, because it's an organization that does not care what your religion is, does not care what your fraternal affiliation is, does not care about what your politics are, so long as you are a Black man who cares about the well-being of Black boys, right? You get such a diverse group of people that for all of our events, we always get women who are coming and looking, and by the way,
as social for whatever, entrepreneur networking for whatever you go.
But that is one of the beauties of the Black experience, and I think it's one of the roles of organizations like the 100 Black Men is to have social gatherings so that Black folks who are looking for other progressive Black folks can also go and show up and connect and build. You can't create a united community, and Miami-Dade County has its own challenges in doing that, until you can find things to unite around. And the beauty of Black America is we can always find time for gathering and libations and music to unite around, which is why, for instance, the Miami-Dade Chambers Gala is such a well-attended event, and it's why we need those sorts of events to continue growing and being sort of the focal point of a time for us to come together for a positive reason, and still have some fun and let our head down. That's right.
Yes. And so let's talk about the Black Advisory Board for Miami-Dade County.
Okay.
What is that role? How did you assume this role? And just give us all the information about it.
So the Miami-Dade Black Affairs Advisory Board is actually a board that was created in the wake of the murder of Arthur McDuffie and the ensuing unrest that followed. It was created to offer a voice to the Black community within the county at a time when there was so little in the way of voices in Miami-Dade County, or then Dade County, from Black Miami-Dade, right?
And I am homegrown, so I am very much aware and remember the Willie Sims and the Dewey Knights and all of them that were gathering at the table, the Reeves and everyone, to ensure that, and even the call of the pastors rallying together, that there was a voice. The word we knew then was equality. We understand now that there is another dimension called equity now, but they were looking for equality at that time.
Right, and it's funny, so the historian Marvin Dunn, who wrote an outstanding book about Black Miami titled Black Miami, so I encourage everyone to pick it up. I heard him recently say, will we remember George Floyd in 10 years? And the reason why he asked that question is, after he asked that question, and people were like, sure we will, right? He asked that question and other people raised their hand, and then he said, who here knows who Arthur McDuffie is? Highlighting, of course, that that was a murder of a Black man at the hands of the police that actually got the attention of then President Jimmy Carter, who came down here to deal with it, right? This was something that shocked the world.
Yeah.
And yet here we are in 2020 now talking about George Floyd and on the same train. And I think that, to go back to your original question, the role of the Black Affairs Advisory Board, I think that it's to act as an advocate within the county to make sure that we're not forgetting where we've been, but also to push forward so that we can go forward.
And I have said this, you don't know this, but I've said this over the course of this year, that the reason Miami is a few steps ahead, I'm not saying that we all the way there, but it's because of our predecessors who created spaces and voices, and that we got into the good, bad, and ugly with the city and with the county, that there is at least an intentionality to include Black voices. Does that remedy some of the other social woes? Because infused in our culture here in Miami is, I call it, a melting pot that won't melt. Because you got Black Miami, you got the Little Havana, and you got the Haitian community, and you got all of these segments that at times, yeah, we're here together. We in one big pot of paella or gumbo or wherever you're from, right? But we still stay segmented. But I think boards and voices like yours at least is a part of the agenda of the mayor, because your office is out of the mayor's office, or is it out of the commission?
So we're out of the Office of Community Advocacy, which falls under the chair, who is Pepe Diaz.
Yes.
But I will say that the Mayor Levine Cava, has been willing to listen where other mayors have not. And I will say that Chair Diaz and Vice Chair Gilbert have certainly been supportive of us advocating. I think there once was a time, and back in May, there was the terrible shooting at the El Mula banquet hall, and it got a little bit of attention, but I wasn't doing anything for attention. I was literally trying to identify, I think, what could be done.
Right.
I was concerned about the unchecked party atmosphere in these locations that aren't set up for parties, as opposed to, you got the brothers who run Headliners, who have run safe parties for years, right? So we're taking away from legitimate Black businesses who play by all the rules, and sometimes spend our money where we shouldn't. And I took the county code enforcement to task, saying, where were you?
Yes.
And it was a legitimate question that had to be asked. The mayor took note of it. And the mayor said, you know what, I hear you. And then they took action. And I think sometimes we have to be willing to lovingly take our allies to task if they're missing the point.
Right.
I certainly think that we're on a better footing than we were, but since we don't know how long that footing's going to last, we better run through the door with both hands and try
Like
to
we on
correct,
fire.
right, and try to correct as much as we can, as quickly as we can. We're in a fortunate place in Miami-Dade County. There are 5 Black commissioners sitting on the dais that need 7 votes, right? There are at least 2 other commissioners that sit on that dais who are Democrats and would arguably be inclined to be supportive of the Black community, right? So then now we need to show up with, hey, we would like this, we would like this, we would like this, and try to right some of these wrongs.
And maximize this moment.
Right.
I hear you.
And the mayor's Office of Equity and Inclusion is trying to deal with that and do that, but it's a new office, so you're going to go through some growing pains and figure out where you exist within the county hierarchy and things like that. But they're on it, right? We're talking about things that did not exist 2 years ago.
Right.
And we're talking about them because we now have them. And it's our job to keep them focused on the things that need to happen. The other role, though, for the Black Affairs Advisory Board is to also advocate to the community what programs exist within the county for the benefit of the community. And sometimes I think that's missed, right? So, take MAP for instance, and I've had my not MD is its name now.
Yeah.
I've had my fair share of criticisms regarding the home ownership program because and to this day I believe that the maximum number is too low. It's 299,000. After they raised it, and I'm glad they raised it, but you can't buy a house in Opa-locka for 299,000.
You can't buy a house in Liberty City. A house just sold for $375,000.
Right. So I'm sitting here saying, okay, we need to make sure that the Black community is participating in these programs, particularly because MD also is a child of the aftermath of the unrest from McDuffie, right? So we need to make sure that the Black community is participating there. We need to make sure that to the extent that vaccinations are available, they're also available not only on Fisher Island, but in Opa-locka, right? So there are those things that we have a role in as well, because sometimes if the community doesn't know, then the community doesn't benefit.
Yeah.
So it's always been a two-role job: advocate within the county for the Black community, and advocate about the county to the Black community,
Yeah.
so that we are getting our fair share on both ends.
Gotcha. And so how are you appointed? And then it seems as if your board has become almost a launching pad for leadership, because you then have Dottie Joseph, who was, Lord,
Representative Dottie Joseph?
yes. But
she was a member.
North Bay Village Mayor.
Andrina Jackson was
I
also.
don't know why that name
was also
Forgive me,
was also a
Andrina,
member.
you know I love you. Yes, but several others.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just naming those that were just recent. So talk to us about how you are appointed or you apply to be a part of your board. What would be some of those benefits, and how does it seem that people seem to go into politics from being on this board?
Well, I really can't imagine, because I've thus far, and I intend to continue to avoid any sort of political aspirations. So for me, it's just about the board. I will say this, that what are the benefits? The benefits are knowing that you're contributing to trying to help the community, because there's nothing else. You get nothing else. You don't get paid.
I don't get no
you don't
$2,
get,
no parking pass.
You don't get, you don't get any you don't get any perks. But it's not about perks, right?
Right.
When helping the Black community has never
Being a
been about
change
perks.
agent, being a part of that. Yeah.
But and you can't even be as loud a frontline soldier as, let's say, the NAACP, because that's not your role either, right? Your role is within the county and without the county, but it's still focused on the county, right? But the county commission did something that I think was very beneficial for our board a few years back. They expanded it from, we were 13 members. Each commissioner got an appointee.
So you're appointed by a commissioner.
Right. Mm-hmm. And for instance, I am Chairman Diaz's appointee. But a few years ago, they expanded it so that there are also 13 appointees by the board. So that gives us 26 possible members. And so
And what's your capacity now?
20, where are we now?
Yes.
Right now we're, I think, about 18.
Okay.
So we have openings today. But it also allows us to be aggressive about trying to pull people in and get people from the bottom of the county down south to County Line Road up north, to get people to dedicate, the first Wednesday of every month to coming down to the county and meeting with us and helping us along. It's funny because we do attract people who I think have great ideas, and that's, I think, been the strength of the board. So one of our newest members, R.B. Dickerson, has undertaken to try to set up a countywide career fair with employers. And when he came in, I was like, hey, come on, let's go. because I have a motto personally, which is 10% talk, 90% action. If you're not doing something, you're not leading, right? So if you come in and you have that mindset that I would like to see us do this, we're like, fine, just be prepared to then get on it, right?
At my staff, they know if you say it, you own it.
Right.
I just feel like if you've got the thought process behind it, then let us rally behind you to support it. But it came to you, so but you say it, you own it. Let's make it happen.
Right, but we also have probably one of the most dedicated county employees as our program officer, who's Retha Boone 5.
Retha Boone 5, which I will tell you was the first person ever to fire me, but that's a whole nother. She gets so embarrassed every time I tell her that. But you know what it was? Remember I told you that I was working, and I was doing some stuff with her and decided I wasn't going back to college. I was making enough money.
Right.
She said, oh, so since you're working and you don't have time to go to school, let me help you.
Let me free up some time for you.
Let me free up some time so you could go back. She loved me enough to say that this cannot be where you stop.
Right.
And I will forever be thankful to Retha Sally Boone 5.
That's right.
I will be forever grateful to you for kicking me right where I needed to be kicked to move forward, because I wouldn't be sitting here today.
But that's her nature, right? She won't allow anything to remain stagnant. And I guess as chair, I try to play defense, and I won't allow anybody to try to overwhelm her. Like, that's kind of my role, is to make sure that we just put out the Black World Guide. My list of things that Retha does on a yearly basis is long, but one of the things that I am most proud of is we just put out the Black World Guide, and Retha runs around and collects what's probably the single largest, in one place, largest directory of Black-owned businesses in Miami-Dade County.
Yes, she does.
And then takes the time every year to contact the businesses, update it, see if anything has changed, what's going on. At this point now, we're trying to advocate within the county to get some space on the county's website so that it can continue to be a developed database that's, rather than there as a PDF, which it is, a developed database so that you can look it up and say, hey, I'm interested in landscape services. Oh, here you go. Here are the Black-owned landscaping.
That's a phenomenal idea. So again, Black Advisory Board is committed to advocacy, appointed by commissioners for all 13, but then there is also another opportunity.
Right.
And so those who are interested in putting their hand to be a voice of influence with this can go to... So
you can go to the Miami-Dade Black Affairs Advisory Board website. You can go to our Facebook page as well. You can, and I'm not shy about this because it's on public records. You can feel free to give me a call, 305-987-1260. And I'll at least get you in contact with Retha, and you can submit your resume, and we can get you before the board. Because the idea is that if you aren't growing, right, then you are failing in what it is you're supposed to be doing. And we have a very diverse Black community here in Miami-Dade County. So we want to see people from all backgrounds, from all areas of the county. Like I said, the county is the size of the state of Rhode Island,
yes.
Right? So we need representation from down south. We need representation from out west. We need to know what's happening on the beach. Those things are all very important. So I don't want anyone, particularly anyone watching this, to think, oh, well, my commissioner's already chosen someone, so let me not try. If you have a belief in service and you would like to serve, we have the space for you.
Wonderful. And so that meeting that happens, you said the first Wednesday of every month.
First Wednesday of every month.
Is it in person or virtual at this point?
So we are meeting in person, and Retha does a wonderful job of making sure that we have space within the county building in order to meet, but yet still be safe and socially distanced. I encourage masks for everyone. That's very important. But we meet on the first Wednesday of every month. Our next meeting will be the first Wednesday in October.
And is that open to the public?
It is. All of our meetings are open to the public. One of the things that people need to remember is by being a member of the Black Affairs Advisory Board, you are subject to all of the sunshine rules of the state of Florida, which means that we don't have secret meetings. If we're meeting in public.
Yes.
We're meeting together. So everything is transparent and above board.
Well, listen, Attorney Hunter Johnson, it has been a distinct pleasure having you in focus. I hope those who have been watching, our students that will watch this later, you got a little bit of a greater insight on the great work that's happening right here with one individual who just thought it not robbery to lean his shoulder into working for and around the efforts to improve the lives of Black people in Miami-Dade County. Any parting or last words?
Yeah, and the only thing I think I'd say is this: to be a well-rounded participant in any community, you should be socially, politically, economically, and culturally invested in the community. That means that you have to vote. That means that you have to support the organizations that are doing good work within your community. That means you have to buy within your community. And that means that you have to support the institutions and the churches and the mosques in your community. That's what being a member, a well-rounded member of being in a community is. So I encourage everyone to do the same.
Well, thank you for joining us for this edition of In Focus. I'm your host, LaTousha Daniels, and we look forward to seeing you next month.